What's up, dude? Hey guys, it's Jason here, and I just want to welcome you to my new channel for, just everything PC related, technology. I'm really new to this. I've had a gaming channel in the past, still kind of do, but I really didn't go very far with it. I just kind of uploaded videos for fun. But I'm actually really interested in this topic, so I want to put my best foot forward. I'm going to try to make this as enjoyable as possible, but with being my first video, guys, I'm sorry, I know it's going to be cringy. I'm trying to get my feet wet. Today's video, as suggested by the title, will just be, a very simplistic, suitable PC for someone, a new beginner, to build. It's fairly affordable, and it can run games pretty decently at 1080p. Which is just, standard high definition, but still, 1080p still looks great, guys. So let's just run through the parts that are needed for a computer. For all you new beginners, new builders, just count them off. You need a CPU, right? CPU is going to be your brains of the computer. It instructs the computer what to do. It processes all your programs, your software, all that stuff, right? You're going to need RAM, your system memory. That aids the CPU in processing things. You need your motherboard, which is what everything's going to go on. It's kind of like the slate. Everything gets added to the motherboard. You're going to need a graphics card if you want to play video games. You're going to need a hard drive to store your pictures, your videos, your games, whatever you guys want to save. You're going to need just, power supply. You're going to need a power supply to power everything, and then you're going to need a case to put it all in. So I've made a pretty good list, in my opinion, of the things that will make a pretty decent computer build for you guys. So this video is just going to be me going through the parts, why I picked these parts, and then the next video is going to be me actually putting this computer together. A computer very similar to this. I will talk about some of these parts I don't have on hand, or you can't buy them anymore. So the build that I'm going to create back in the future, in the second video, is going to be a little different than the build that's going to be in this video, but they're going to perform very similarly. Can I English? Very similarly to this build and to what I have in the build that I'm going to have for you guys. So just to get that out of the way, here's a short list. I'll just go over your Athlon is going to be your CPU, your Gigabyte is going to be your motherboard, your Crucial 8 gigs is going to be your RAM, the EVGA GTX 1050 is going to be your graphics card, your Corsair is going to be your power supply, this will be your case, and this will be your hard drive. I've got them all open on tabs up here, so we'll just go through it. First one, you got your Athlon X4 880K. It was AMD's last kind of run of CPUs in their FM2 lineup. It's got 4 cores, which is perfect for gaming. Most games want you to have at least 4 cores. Some games won't even let you run them unless you have 4 cores, and then you have to do a bunch of loose jumps and hurdles to run aftermarket and side software with the game, and it's just not worth doing that. So yeah, it's got 4 cores, 4 physical cores, no hyper-threading. So it's 4 cores, 4 threads, but it's still very good for gaming. It's only $80. It's very good still for a processor. I personally, like I said, all these parts, most of these parts I'm going to have. Personally have this processor. It's in my spare build. Never had a problem with it. I mean, it's exactly what you expect from a quad core. It runs at 4 gigahertz. To new beginners, 4 gigahertz might not sound very high, but most CPUs come factory clocked at anywhere between like 3.2 and 3.6 gigahertz, and this one comes factory clocked at 4 and boosts to 4.2, and that is just extremely high. You won't have to overclock it, but you can. You'll have the option with the motherboard, and this is an unlocked CPU, so you'll have the option to overclock in the future if you want to. I would just recommend getting a aftermarket CPU cooler. I did not add one to this list because it's not required, but you'll need one of those in the future. just go through some of the specs. Like I said, it's quad core. It's a FM2 socket. That's what your motherboard's going to have. So yeah, like I said, it's a great processor onto your motherboard. This will be your motherboard. It's the Gigabyte GA-F2888X. It's a long name. I'm just going to call it the A88X. Looking by this picture, you can see that you'll have 4 RAM slots, but your RAM in this build, you'll have 2 sticks, both of which are 4 gigs. But with those extra 2 slots, you can always add RAM later, so you can go up to 16, or if you end up buying 4 8-gig sticks, you can go up to 32. Whatever you want to do, you have 4 slots, so you could go up to 32 gigs. You see, that's your socket. That's where your CPU will go. It takes an 8-pin power draw. The power supply that I've selected for this build, it's gonna have no problem with that. It also comes with a 3.1 USB port. It's faster than 3.0. It transfers data faster, and it's also got a USB Type-C. USB Type-C has become the norm. It's really nice that you're going to have this, and for future, when new products come out that are going to be external, that Type-C is going to come in handy. This will be your RAM. It's got a blue color scheme, which will come into play later in this video. It's 1600 megahertz. Again, you don't really need much more than that. G-Skill is a good company. I've never had any problems with them. I've used them in builds for friends and family. G-Skills is a really dependable brand. Then next will be your graphics card. This will be your graphics card. This is the GeForce GTX 1050 Ti. It's kind of like their new, I wouldn't say flagship, but it's very like beginner, pocket friendly GPU that can play 1080p with no problem. It's got 4 gigs of RAM and EVGA. I've had EVGA for many years. You can't go wrong with EVGA. I've never had a problem with them. They're a really good company. This is one of the products in the build that I'm personally going to make in the next video are going to be different. Card is actually going to be a R7370. It's actually this card right here. But as you can see, this card is now $439 because they no longer make them. This card is definitely not worth 440 bucks. But at the time when I bought it, it was 110, 120, and it runs everything at 1080p fine for me. But this 1050 Ti not only outperforms this card, is obviously cheaper than the R7370 is now, and it also something that the R7370 does that this doesn't do, and that this card is better. It has better power efficiency. If you see, there's no power pin for the power supply to give power to the card. The card just gets all of its power off the board. The next thing on the list is the power supply, which is going to be what powers everything. This also is a little different than what I have in my personal computer. The computer that I'm going to be using is going to have a 650 Thermaltake modular power supply, but this computer didn't need 650 watt power supply. 550 watt would be perfect. I'm actually gonna show you later on just how much power draw this computer is gonna use with these parts, and it's well below 550 watts. But 550 watts will give you a little bit of breathing room in case you want to upgrade in the future. You put a better card, you can get a 1060 or you can get an RX 480, and this power supply will still be able to run both of those cards. It's modular, which is gonna help with cable management. Yeah, this is a very good power supply. Corsair. Big fan of Corsair. I've used them for years. I've never had any problems. The next on the list is your computer case, and this is where the color scheme comes back into play because the blue LEDs. It's micro ATX, which is going to be exactly the size of your motherboard. It's going to fit perfectly. It has 2 built-in fans, ample cable management room, all the bells and whistles for, if you add the shipping, 40 bucks. That's a good price for this computer case. DIY PC. I've used them in the past. I've never had any problems with them. I'm usually a Thermaltake or a Corsair or a Rosewell type guy, but you know, still a really good brand. And lastly is your hard drive. Just a really basic 1 terabyte hard drive. It's a Seagate Barracuda. Never had any problems with Seagates. They're not as fast as SSDs, but you still got 1 terabyte of storage. That's a lot of storage. And if you're not gonna have, you know, a lot of videos or games or a lot of stuff to store, you're still gonna have a lot of room. But the price difference between a 500 gigabyte and a 1 terabyte is like $2, and it's doesn't make sense to go with the 500 gigabyte in my opinion. You're getting 500 more gigs for $2. That's basically the computer that you'll be building alongside me, or at least watch me make. I'll show you just exactly. Here's your Athlon 880K. There's your RAM card, hard drive, your keyboard and mouse, and then your fans. And then if you just use it for 8 hours a day, it's only going to use 309 watts. That's an extra 150 watts that you're going to have for performance gains, because the way power supplies work is there's a curve in the performance of like power efficiency, and usually right in the middle or closer to the 3/4 is where it performs the best. The closer you get to the max wattage, and the lower you get to like the lower wattage. Like if this build only used 200 and something watts, I would recommend probably a 400 watt power supply. I think you won't have any problems with it. But yeah, guys, I appreciate you tuning in and sticking with me, and I hope you actually learned something, and I'm hoping you tune in for the sequel to this, which is where I'm actually going to build the computer. So, guys, thanks for watching.